Hello viewers, today is World Consumers Rights Day. This day is observed every year on March 15 since 1983. On this day, efforts are made to highlight the fundamental rights of the consumers, to protect their needs and to draw attention to their aspirations. The theme of this year's World Consumers Rights Day is Fair Digital Finance. In keeping with the times, at a time when the world has become a global village where digital finance is the rule of the day, we have with us today the Ombudsman of the Reserve Bank of India, Guwahati, Mr. Thotngam Jamang, to discuss about the Ombudsman scheme of the Reserve Bank of India. Thank you, Mr. Jamang, for joining us today in this discussion.
Thank you.
We'll start with what is the integrated Ombudsman scheme of the Reserve Bank of India to protect our consumers?
Thank you, Prasanta, for raising the important issue about the World Consumer Rights Day, and particularly the relevant, what you call, theme of relating to digital relevance of the digital transactions in this world, particularly in the context of India. And I also would like to thank the Doordarshan for giving us this opportunity to interact with the viewers of the Doordarshan and to talk about the Reserve Bank of India integrated ombudsman scheme, which we have launched on the 12th of November 2021 by the Prime Minister of India. So just to highlight a bit about the background of the banking ombudsman, the scheme, Reserve Bank of India, the one of the focal points, or rather the concern about RBI and the policy and the fundamental thinking about how to protect the consumer's right and also to protect the customer of the regulated entity, that has been a focal point of Reserve Bank of India. That has been always a cornerstone.
What is the regulated entities? Will you elaborate on that?
Fine. I will come to that point. So the scheme which we have already started of the banking ombuds, the scheme way back in 1995, because RBI is of the view that there is a need to protect the interests of the customer of the regulated entities. So if that is the case, in case if the customers of the regulated entities did not get the services required.
By regulated entities, you mean the commercial banks?
Commercial bank, NBFCs, cooperative banks, RRBs. So all these which are regulated by RBI.
Right.
Then we have these challenges of how do we deal to address that kind of a deficiency in services provided by the regulated entity. This is how the concept of alternate grievance redress framework designed by Reserve Bank of India. An ombudsman scheme is nothing but part of that. So earlier we have the banking ombudsman, which looks after the grievances relating to commercial banks, scheduled commercial banks. Then we integrated, developed another ombudsman scheme dealing with NBFCs, non-banking financial companies.
Right.
And again, we develop, because with the change of the financial landscape, a lot of developmental things happen. So we again introduce a scheme on digital transaction ombudsman.
Right.
So with this three scheme running, in a different direction, then RBI thought it would be better to centralize so that we can have a process efficiency rather than having a segregated ombudsman scheme altogether. So this is how we developed and came into integrated ombudsman scheme in 2021.
Earlier you had separate ombudsman for these different banks.
Right.
Now you have integrated
the entire thing, yes.
all the three
yes.
into one.
Into one.
will it not lead to, overloading, of cases and all that? The more pressure on you, like.
No, I think the challenges which we have is not because of the pressure. The onlooking of the pressure will always be there, because the number of cases, if you see how Reserve Bank of India is dealing with the number of cases relating to complaints, it runs to more than 3 lakh if you looked into it. But then we have been disposal has been pretty efficient, because RBI is always for the interest of the protection of the customers. So it is our duty to ensure that there is a sufficient, things are being taken care of to address the grievances.
What type of, common complaints you receive from, say, the commercial banks? What are the common complaints like?
Complaints could be multiple, because if you looked in the earlier the Ombudsman scheme, we were dealing with limited cause of complaints. So there is the design of the Ombudsman scheme of earlier scheme and integrated one. There is a difference. So let me explain for the viewer. In a sense, in the earlier scheme, there are limited ground of complaints. For instance, like for the banking ombudsman, commercial bank, we have 22 grounds. Like that, we have a separate grounds for NBFCs and a separate ground for digital ombudsman.
Okay.
So, because of this, there leads to a issue relating to though the cause of the complaint may be same, but at the same time, when it is dealing the case, then the cases were dealt in a different manner. Okay. So in the integrated environment, since the whole scheme has been already integrated, the processes of dealing will be similar for every complaint. Right. So this is how. So on the nature of complaint, it could be anything. Okay. It could be now in the new scheme, any service deficiency, they can come and complain. Any services deficiency by the regulated entities, they can come and complain. There are few negative lists, in a sense where it will not be processed. Suppose if the complaint is sub judice in nature, because it is being dealt in another court, then we will not deal with it. Okay. If the complaint is already, dealt with by any of the ombudsmen, then we will not deal with it. Okay. And then if it is in the process, and if it is a duplicate, then we will not deal it. So like that, there are 8-9 list of items where we will not deal, because otherwise any.
At what point can a complainant approach you? Because suppose he is not getting redressal from the bank, he is applying for, he has lost the complaint. So how long he has to wait before he can approach you for redressal of his grievance?
In terms of the ombudsman scheme which we have designed, once the customer had this grievances or service deficiency which he observed, he can lodge a complaint with the entity in which he or she is a customer, and within 1 month, if his or her complaint is not redressed by the regulated entity of Reserve Bank of India, then they can approach the office of the Ombudsman. So 1 year. Here, one thing which we have to remember is that within 1 year, within 1 month, after a lapse of 1 month, he can approach the office of the Ombudsman. But there is a time bar. I think our customers should, our viewers should know. There is a time bar. In a sense, after the 1 month, there is a RBI opens a window for 1 year. Okay. So if they fail to come to the office of Ombudsman within that period of 1 year, then we will be treating that as time bar. So we will not entertain the complaint. So
then you'll have to go to a court or some.
Yes, they can always. Yeah, and that's in case if we can't entertain the complaint, they can go to other.
But one thing we are observing as a frequent, most of us we go to the banks for transactions, So we never see any notice or like that, that if your complaint is not addressed in here at the proper time and all that, you can approach the Ombudsman. So this sort of publicity is rarely seen in our commercial banks or any other entities, related to the Ombudsman. So people are not very much aware that there is a higher appellate authority to whom they can approach for redress. So are you going to do something about it to make people aware that there is a forum where your grievances can be addressed?
In terms of the scheme, all the regulated entities, banks are supposed to display in the premises the office of the Ombudsman, right, with the details. Each of them will have to display.
That is not done.
So that thing, if it is not done, I think every people who they come to know that this is not being done, then they have every right to tell the bank and the branch that this is not being done, and at the same time that information can be provided to the Ombudsman office, which we can.
Do we have some monitoring mechanism or something to ensure that this is maintained, that the consumers are informed about their rights and privileges? So are there any mandatory directive from the RBI to the commercialized bank to ensure that these notices are prominently displayed?
It is supposed
because
to
it is not done. That is when even the word Ombudsman is something very alien to our society even today. There is a person called an Ombudsman who can redress our problems.
I know.
So
true,
I
that's
think
true.
there's while talking on this issue of the public awareness about the Ombudsman, so what's the level of complaints you are receiving from the northeastern states? I assume that you are in charge of the 7 states of the northeast.
Right.
So what type of, what's the volume of complaints you are receiving?
The volume of complaint, I can't, roughly, let me go back to 2019-20. So we receive about 3,000, roughly around 3,600 in 2019-20.
Right.
And 2021, we receive about 2,000, but I can't exactly remember the figures.
Right.
But it is, I think it's roughly maybe around 2,700. 700, because we, in 2020-21, we aligned the financial system. From earlier, we have our financial RBI from this July to June. But from 2021 onwards, we align with the normal what you call financial calendar, that is 31st March. Right. So that 3 months, so if we extrapolate, we will be having roughly in that range of 3,607. But we received, because 9 months only, we took that. And this time around, we have already dealt with around about 4,700 plus what you call complaint which we have already received. So there is a jump in the northeast. But here in the new integrated ombudsman what you call scheme, the design of the scheme is such that when there is a shortfall in the number of complaints as compared to the other centers, then we have a centralized what you call the system where additional complaints pertaining to other centers can be loaded to us. So in addition to those complaints which are emanating from the northeastern states, we will also receive the complaints from other centers. So that is why number of the complaints have increased if we compare with the previous year. So this with the we have already designed in the form of one ombudsman scheme, which means all the ombudsman officers will also be dealing with any complaints coming from any of from any nook and
So
corner of the
you'll
country.
keep busy. I mean, they'll keep
Yes,
you busy
yes.
with some cases from other
Right,
centers.
so that no other officers are overloaded with, so
Complaint.
there is a equal share of burden and challenge.
From Northeast, the complaints you're receiving, so what is the percentage from, say, the urban areas compared to the rural areas?
Yeah, the concentration of the complaints in the Northeast, particularly it's urban centric.
Right.
So most of the complaints which we are receiving, they are, I would say that more than 70% are coming from the urban center.
Urban centers.
So other segment which are coming, they are very, very less. So maybe that could be one of the reason why we have to interact with, and disseminate the information, that there is a channel available for you whenever there is a deficiency which you observe in the services rendered by the regulated entity of Reserve Bank of India. Then you have an, the institution called as the Ombudsman.
Actually, that's what I was pointing out. There's no much publicity about your office among the consumers, so that they are aware that there is a forum for which they can apply. Like, in fact, you see in the Northeast, especially in Assam, over the years, last few years, we have been seeing that the non-banking finance sector. So they have been giving out a lot of loans and all that, and there's a lot of controversy over that, about the rate of interest, about the way they get the money back and all. And even the state new government has, paying back the money taken as loans to the So how do you view this development? So now this sector has also come under your jurisdiction.
Let me, in a sense, I don't want to divert with our discussion, because one is whether they are regulated entities. If they are not regulated entities, that will not come with us. If they are regulated entities, that will fall within the purview of the Ombudsman office. So whether it is commercial bank, whether it is NPFCs or any if they are
this non-banking financial all this non-bank, they are not registered with you.
If it is there are a number of microfinance institutions which are not registered with RBI.
They are not registered.
No.
So I think they are the main culprits.
No, I can't say that. I can't. Maybe those things, since if they are not regulated by us, that would be outside
your jurisdiction.
So I will not be able to comment on that.
Now, under this integrated scheme of the Ombudsman, what benefits can the consumers expect in the coming days?
See, under this scheme, we have what we call one centralized processing center, which is one centralized complaint management system, and we have complaint receipt and processing system, which is centralized in Chandigarh. And in addition to that, we have one email. So one email which is crpc.rbi.org.in, where the complaint can be lodged through that. And in addition to that, we have one phone number. Okay, for the entire. It is meant from office hour to the closure of the office. So this is how people can easily understand which mail ID one have to access, instead of having 22 peripheries of so they will be able to, so they can easily understand where I have to lodge a complaint. So easier to understand, since we have already centralized and that has been already created for them, it is easier to access. Secondly, a lot of the benefits for them is that we have improvised in our complaint management CMS system, whereby number of cases which will not be maintainable. Earlier what happened is that there are a number of cases which are not maintainable, they simply lodge. But in the system it has been taken care of. So when they try to input, that will show that this case will not be maintainable.
Okay.
So those
That
things
will
will
not be accepted.
it will not be accepted. The system will not allow him to register.
Okay.
So that duplicacy and then non-maintainability gets reduced.
Okay.
So
At the entry point.
At the entry point itself.
Okay.
Thirdly, when in our CRPC, which is in Chandigarh, email complaint, physical complaint, which we receive, that will be inputted by our staff itself, and then that will be processed. So, in the initial process itself, the people who are manning on the staff, RBI staff, will ask for additional input. So that will help them in resolving the inputs received from the, and then it will be processed.
Okay.
Third one is that we have, like I said, 14448 number is there, which the people who wanted to have an information relating to the Ombudsman and how to lodge complaint, how it is to be done, all these things can be raised in that particular, and it is now available in 9 languages, in addition to Hindi and English. So people who are not conversant with Hindi and English or English, they can Tamil people can Oriya, like this Kannada.
In Northeastern, any language from Northeast?
Northeast, Bengali, Assam is not there. Assam is yet to be there.
Bengali is there.
So, but over a period of time, this will be
We'll expand the
this will be included. So this is how we have
consumer is
made.
going to benefit.
But,
Suppose like you pass an order against a commercial bank or something. Suppose they don't implement your order. So what will you do about that?
we have under the scheme, we have this Ombudsman has a quasi-judicial power where it can give award.
Okay.
So if the regulated entity fails to implement the direction given by the Ombudsman, then award can be issued. But here again, it is not it is not a dictatorship. So there is always a scheme of
one question, like
appeal.
Suppose the consumer is not happy with your decision, like, so can they go for a higher appeal and all that?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because like I say that it is not because if that is not provided, then something is wrong with the system. So if the decision of the Ombudsman, if the customer is not happy, the complainant is not happy, then we have a appellate authority. In the case of this thing,
appellate authority is
the executive director of Reserve Bank of India, looking after consumer education and protection department in Central Office, Mumbai.
Okay.
So they can appeal. They can appeal.
Okay, Mr. Jamang, it's very nice talking to you, and we are running out of time. Thank you very much for joining us in today's program, and I hope our viewers have also benefited from the discussion we had, and will be more aware about their rights and privileges under the Ombudsman scheme of the Reserve Bank of India. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prasanta ji. Thank you. Thanks a lot.